everyone, it's Paul from Alexander Knife Sharpen and Laser Engraving. Hopefully you can hear me because my landscapers, of course, just showed up. Seems to happen every time I shoot a video. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna do a full set of globals, and I'm gonna do kind of my quick process on it. So I'm gonna touch them up on a 1x30 just to get the corrections in there, but I'm gonna sharpen them on 2 Tormek machines. And my goal here is I don't want it taking longer than about 8 minutes to 7 minutes per blade. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it 6? Let's see. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them. One of them is serrated, and that should be under 45 minutes. So I'm actually going to put a timer on, and I want to see how close I'm sticking to that 7 to 8 minute time frame on these knives. I won't make you watch through everything when I edit it down, but I'll any kind of points or things that I want to point out to you, I'll talk to you through the video. We'll try and keep it, obviously I don't want it to be a 45-minute long video, so I will edit a good portion of this out for you. But let's see if we can get it done in that 45-minute time frame. Alrighty, so the very first thing I like to do, first we're going to start the clock, and that should be going. Oh, helps if I turn it on, right? Turn it on. So this is a cool little timer. When I flip it to the side, it's going to give me 45 minutes, and it's counting, and we're on the clock. So the first thing I like to do is clean up globals when they come in. Sometimes they'll be crusty and just have stuff on them, and they clean up really well. I do this typically on a dental radial disc. I'm not going to go crazy and try and get every single mark and thing out. This is just a general cleanup. But when I see crusty stuff stuck on them or things that shouldn't be there, I generally like to get that off. Or if I see a lot of oxidation. And you can see there's a bunch of stains and food stuff on this side. But I generally like to do this because I think people appreciate when they get their knives back and they practically look new or just look great. They don't necessarily have to be absolutely perfect, but this has always been one of my favorite knives for just general cleanup. Be careful if you go over the logos. You don't want to remove them, but they will get oxidized too, and it doesn't hurt to get in there. All right, that one's done. Next, we're going to go on to the chef's knife. This one looks like it definitely has a lot more oxidation and has probably used a good bit. Not bad. And as you're doing your timing and things, how I say, I like it to be 7 or 8 minutes per knife. The good thing is, in most sets of knives, unless you're doing absolutely all the same exact size, some knives aren't going to take you as long. So, this small paring knife isn't going to take as long as a chef's knife. Now, unless it's completely destroyed, which is something that happens too. You will see at times you can pick out what is the most popular knife in someone's house by its use level and how much abuse it's had. And I can usually tell you okay, this is somebody's favorite knife, probably the wife or husband or whoever does the cooking. And I will generally, here's another just tip for you. When I see that, if I notice that the chef's knife is barely ever used, but I see that the paring knife has been beat to hell and they use that a lot, I put a lot of time into that knife that I know is the person's favorite. And what's interesting is a lot of times it's not the biggest knife, it's not the chef's knife. Quite regularly, it's one of these. It's the smallest, it's the smaller knives. I've noticed, if it's a professional chef you're dealing with, You know, often, yeah, they use the chef's knife and they use it all the time. But I've noticed with a lot of residential knives and home cooks, it's not uncommon that they tend to gravitate to smaller knives. They don't maybe like the big giant chef's knives. I know my wife's used to be, until she really got into cooking, she kind of stayed away from my big giant Japanese chef's knives. And now that she's a really great cook and does a lot of cooking, she uses that knife more than she ever did. But like I said, not uncommon that you'll see just a particular knife that you know, hey, this is everybody's favorite in the house. Sometimes you can tell from the oxidation. Sometimes it's just the amount of chips. You know, that one was clearly used quite a bit. This one has a good bit of chipping. I'm in the beginning of my holiday rush season. And for me, it starts right after Halloween ends. Halloween ended, and I have been nonstop people contacting me. Can I bring my knives in to be sharpened? I even put on my website, I've done this for the last 2 years, please do not bring any gardening gear in this time of year. Everybody wants their knives sharpened during the holidays, and that is a time. Sometimes I'll use a little Scotch-Brite buffer too on really bad stuff. That's what I got over here. It's just a small little gray Scotch-Brite. Sometimes it works good for getting like food and weird. This knife's got a lot of weird stains on it. So I just want to see if I can get those started and off with that. If I see that the dental abrasive's not getting it. And this looks like a fairly popular knife in the house too. A lot of chips on it. All right, so I am done with the cleaning part, and I'm at 38 minutes left. All right. Sorry about the landscaper blowing right there. All right, so I'm gonna only use the 1x30 here in the middle. This is my Toolker 1x30. It is one of my favorites. I like all of my 1x30s. They all are a little bit different. The Toolker, I think, is a great one for people to start with if you're only going to get one, because it has a lot of great options and things it can do for you. But right now, my goal is reprofile these, and let's get these chips out. From experience, I've learned it's always good to do a reprofiling stroke, especially when you have heavily chipped knives. I mean, you just want to take those chips out. But I've often done a Japanese knife and skipped it and tried to go right to like 600, and I usually end up regretting it because many times later on I find a chip. So even on a knife that's not chipped up, I usually like to do at least a minimum of 1 or 2, maybe 3 strokes on something like this 120 grit Cubitron to get that reprofiling started. I have approximately 30 minutes left to keep my time that I'm shooting for. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to set the protrusion on this chef's knife. Protrusion has been set. I can now set my angle as long as I keep this nice and flat. We're going to do these at 15 degrees. All right, I'm going to come up and I'm right at 15. Now, some people think you have to do that protrusion every time you change stones. You do not. I've had, at least every once in a while, a few weeks, someone makes a comment, oh, you did it wrong. No, the protrusion of the knife never changes if you don't take it out of the jig. To save you time, you can go to any stone of different size, set that angle, and you're gonna get that same angle. All right? Okay, so the nice thing for me, having two of the exact same machines, for me to do a change, all I got to do is jump to the machine, take the angle guide over, and I'm good to go. I can actually see the burr coming off. Because the amount of grinding we did, it was a pretty significant burr. Sometimes it comes off very quickly, one or two passes, and other times it might need a little bit more. I think we're there. This feels nice and razor sharp. Let's see. Push cutting. Slice cutting. Good. Undoing that knife. Onto my next one. I'm grabbing the next bigger knife because it'll require the least amount of changes on my angle guide. All right, so now we have to remeasure the protrusion because this is a different knife in this jig. But we don't have to measure it when we go from one stone to the next. All right, I'm good there. I'm pulling my jig out. Let's check my angle. And we got to come back down a bit. Smaller knife, we want to be 15. All right, I'm at 15. I'm locking that in. And here we go. And I'm feeling a burr. And sometimes you get lucky like that. Sometimes it goes quicker. Yeah, it feels good. I'm gonna hit it just 7 more times on each side though. Feels good to me. All right, jumping over. This is my 1000 grit stone. Like, again, no need to change. You'll notice I don't take my knife out of my jig to hone, just in case I have to go back to my wheel for some reason. Push cutting, good. Let's check a couple other spots. Yeah, that feels great. This one's done. We're gonna need a new cut test media, but we are done with all the straight edge knives. So that's 5. Now I have to do the one serrated blade. So I'm going to use this 1x30 here. How I like to do them is with a cut down belt. I usually use a A30, which is around 600 grit, and they tend to work really well, this method. I'm going to go edge trailing, which is the belt's going up and away from me. And now I'm going to grab that serrated knife. How I like to do it, let's see how bad this one is. Doesn't seem too bad to me. Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not really cutting like I'd like to see, but it's not the end of the world. I like to go until I see there's a small little reflection of the burr, and you'll see it come off. And by going edge trailing on the flat side, as you see that little reflection come off, you're doing two things. And the nice thing about going this way is, one, I'm pulling that tip back up, which restores the toothiness of this serrated knife. And that's usually what and it feels way better already. And then what I like to do is I take a wire wheel. Now I'm going to push that burr down, and I can see it. There's a little shiny reflection there. I'm going to knock it back to the other side. Sometimes I'll do more than one pass. I actually can feel some of it could also be the wire wheel, but sometimes you'll feel the little bits of flying right off there. All right, so now I'm going to take this again to my leather hone, and same thing. I want to see that burr come out, and a lot of times on a serrated knife, this can be the hardest part, is just getting that burr off that you raised, and sometimes it gets in that little crease in there. So a lot of times I'll maybe one pass on the paper wheel, and a lot of times that does it, or increasing the angle, and sometimes the cut test does it too. Sometimes your cut test will remove that burr, but that's cutting a lot better than it was. But I'm still feeling some burr there. And sometimes I'll go back to the wheel. Sometimes it just needs like another quick pass. Yeah, and I'm still seeing some burr there. Keep in mind also, this is a Japanese knife, so the steel's a little harder, and sometimes that makes the burr removing on this a little bit harder, and the tip on most serrated usually goes the other way. If you look at it, you'll see it's actually ground the opposite way. All right, so I'm going to again hit my wire wheel again for a second time. Now, sometimes I don't have to do this twice. Usually that's more Western knives. Yeah, and I'm seeing the burr's coming off much better this time, or at least moving to the other side. We'll see what the wire wheel says. Okay. And yep, still seeing some burr there. Shine. You'll see a little shiny foil thing bop up. I've always found that the paper wheel does a fantastic job of getting rid of that. If you have to, you can switch around and go on the inside. Sometimes that helps. Yeah, I'm still seeing, usually it's just hitting it enough times and increasing the angle. I'm going to hit that paper wheel again. And now I don't see it. Yeah, looks like it's gone. And we should be able to tell from the paper cut test. Yeah, that's cutting good. Yeah, another thing you can do, I keep these around. I got a whole pile of corks. Sometimes if you have a little bit of a stubborn burr, a little bit of a cork pull through will many times get rid of that burr for you. Yeah, that's cutting great. All right, we're done. So there they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our timer hasn't gone off yet. Trying to be under 45. So I'm just gonna continue showing you the rest of my process because I normally clean these up and pack them. And I guess, you know, technically we could kind of count that as part of the full amount of time. So here's my finishing process here. I usually clean them up a bit. So I take a little bit of, oh, there's my timer. My timer just went off. Yep, timer just went off. So we're at 45 minutes exactly now. And now all I have left to do is clean these up and pack them up. And that doesn't take too long. Well, let's go. I use just a Lysol surface cleaner. Give them a little wipe. Take my fingerprints off of it. And any other junk that might have been there. Customer just pulled up. She's trying to figure out what she's supposed to do out there. She's looking at the boxes. And I'm not going to stop what I'm doing because I think she's dropping off. So alright. And then these just go into their sleeves and that's it. Then I text message my client that their knives are ready. Generally I give them the full sleeve usually, except on the small knives. I usually will cut them in half and try and get more than one knife. So sometimes these small ones, they don't need, I can cut these just to save some of my own money. I can generally cut these in half because they only need about 6 inches. And if there's a little extra there, that's fine, but I'll cut that. Put that there. And that's it. These are done. And then I'll show you my absolute final part of my process. I take the set of knives. I wrap mine in plastic. This is just that stretchy plastic that a lot of people use for moving things. And depending on what they brought them in, I ask my people to wrap their knives up in towels. If they were in a towel, I'll give them their towel back. These did not. These came in a bag. So this is exactly how they're going back. And we're done. And I'm at 47:55 for this entire video. All right, so in closing, that took almost exactly as I expected. I got all of them done and sharpened in under 45 minutes. And I charged $12 per knife. So for that 6 knives, it was $72. And I think that's pretty good. $72 for 45 minutes work. You do the math. That's a good rate for me. I am very happy with that. And like I said, that's probably my longest process. So as I said, I like to do the Japanese knives off them on the Tormek because I just think they come out nicer. The bevels look nicer. When I'm doing Western knives, I charge $10 per knife. And many times I'm doing them completely on a 1x30. It's a quicker process, but that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe that'll answer some questions for you as far as like how much can you make sharpening. Hope that helps everybody out. Have a great day, y'all.